So it is emancipation, and emancipation, as I was saying just now, mean many things to many people. Some people go the route of looking at tradition. Some people go the route of celebrations. Some people dress, some people eat. For those of you who have been looking at Connections 50 Plus, you would know Jennifer and my personalities. And I tend to always focus and look at, okay, where is this going and what is the point of this? And as I reflect on the emancipation celebrations for this year at the end of 17 months of COVID, this year and a half, where the world has turned upside down and inside out. This year, at the end of this period, where people are going to grocery stores and seeing price increases that they can't fathom, and we are understanding the interconnectedness of the world and the reality of supply chain and what that does to what ends up in my pot, or what ends up in my cupboard, and ultimately what ends up on my plate and my children's plate. And at the end of the day, we all really have to be very concerned about what is going to happen next. What direction are we in? All groups have to think about this, but it's emancipation. So I'm taking a look at us, we, the Afro-Caribbean people. And in particular, I am looking at our group, 5.8G. We on the third act stage. And I asked myself, how do we generally feel? What are we hearing from us? What are we saying? We are really the people who occupy leadership positions. If you are the head of the church, head of the community, head of the company, head of government, head of opposition, head of whatever it is, head of the hospital, the likelihood is that you are a 5.8G. And a lot of where we are, however you look at it, is to a large degree the result of what you've done over the last 20, 30 years, on that stage that we were on. And a lot of what we are doing now, those from 50 to 60 who are getting ready to leave, how are we preparing to pass that baton? And what state are we leaving for those to come after us? So I've done an introspection and looking out there and saying, okay, what's going on? And when I look at the paper, I listen to conversations, and I listen to what is being said of my community, generally by us and by others, I'm not hearing enough of the whole picture. It's a conversation that's focused on a few areas of how we are as a people, and it is focused typically on the negative. And so let's look at the statistics. It is focused on crime. It is focused on family structure. It is focused on youth education attainment. It is focused on the issues of single mothers. It is focused on, when you look at the statistics with the word comorbidities and stuff like that, and you look at who's got what disease and who's got which disease and so on. And I asked myself, who is leading this conversation? Who is shaping this conversation? And yes, it may be a fact that the media, social media, all kinds of stuff are creating conversations that leave perceptions that maybe that I think are biased or skewed, not complete. And by no means am I saying that we are perfect. There is no group in this country or the Caribbean that is perfect. All groups have their positives and their negatives. But I think what is important, and my emancipation reflection, is for us to focus on that word. What's a conversation that we're having? What is the narrative that we are encouraging? Have you given up? Think about how you've spoken about us, how you've spoken about your children, how you've spoken about the children in the neighborhood, how you've spoken about your friends and your colleagues over the last couple of years. Think about what have you been doing to expand, support, assist in the general way. Reflect back to your start when you entered the second act stage. Reflect on, and that would have been probably Gregory Maguire told us, the 70s, the 80s, you know, you finish whatever you did, your trade school, and you started your career, you started your marriage, you started whatever it is, and you went along. Reflect and think of how did you achieve what you achieved. Get a piece of paper and just think back through your years. Think of yourself at 20, 25, 30, 35, right up to your age right now. And each of those time frames, think of who was important in facilitating your life. Think of what are the themes that you remember in your life at that time. What were you doing? I'm asking us to do this as a point of departure for us to think of emancipation. Each of us to get on to the second act stage, it was an act of emancipation. You were emancipated from your family, from being a dependent, and you came into your own and you created your own. But no emancipation process is done by yourself. And I hope that that little memory that I just asked you to do, every 5 years, thinking about where you go in the old photo album to remind yourself. Go in the old photo album, and if you can't remember, think about what you were doing. Think about your early work days. Where would you lime? How would you recreate? You know, what were the challenges and so on. And I'm sure that we'll realize whether we were professionals, whether we were tradespeople, whether we were in gardening and farming, whether we were homemakers and housewives, no matter what, there were people who supported us and carried us through. I believe that we are in an environment now, and I don't know if social media is encouraging it. I don't know if the accessibility to media and to be able to broadcast and the competition to be heard above everybody else is encouraging it. But I think our conversations have gone too much to sound bites and too much to comparisons and competition. And I think that is a big part of why the narrative of our successes and how well we're doing is not coming out as much as the highlight stories of 30-second TikTok experience or Instagram or Twitter, or some individuals' odd experience. I may have been out and may have had a moment of indiscretion, but it is captured and blasted. And then we sit down and we paint everyone else based on that little snapshot. So my emancipation approach, my emancipation thing this year was to say and ask myself, how do I feel? And I had a conversation with a friend earlier, and oh, there was all the woe and the worry and the thinking about the economy and thinking about this and looking at the leaders and looking at the analyses in the paper and where are we going and all of that. And I said that I am extremely optimistic. I am not at all naive to the challenges and the problems that exist. But I look at us and I see us, our 5.8G, I see us as having done so well and come so far and left, as Jennifer would say, a legacy that's as yet undiscovered. And I believe that our challenge to ensure that the emancipation story continues, because let me tell you something. I always tell people, you see, whether it was my great grandfather or grandmother, I'm happy the person couldn't run fast and did not escape the slave traders. I am happy that the line that I came from, the DNA, could handle overseas and they didn't get sick and die in the middle passage. I am happy that they were sturdy and resilient workers and withstood generation after generation, whatever was handed to them on those plantations. I am happy that when they were eventually released to their own, they had the values that said, I will do better. They probably came from a line of kings or queens. Or there had to be something in the village that was, even if they were the village clown, they were always getting to be better. And because we are all here today, I think all of us have come from that line. So our emancipation story is a great story because we are all here and we have created what exists today, the good and the bad. So I want to focus on how do we, the 5.8G, begin to do things to ensure that this stage that is building, because I think the emancipation story is a continuous, it's a relay, and you keep handing the baton and handing the baton. But when you run your leg, it's not just running with a baton to hand it over, but that leg that you run on, you have to leave it stronger, you have to leave it better, you have to leave it enhanced. And I think that for emancipation, I want to give 6 tips as to how I believe we can continue our successful emancipation story and to also make sure that the emancipation story continues and it builds. The history of slavery was a global and universal one. It happened to everybody, every race going on. The slavery for plantations in the Caribbean and North America was a specific kind. It was related to colonialization. I think more harm has come from colonialization than, but anyway. But I want us to focus on conversations because I think that is the most potent tool that we have to carry forward positively, stronger and better. So what are we talking about? The first one is this. We all had someone who helped us. I want us to ask the question, apart from your children, who are you helping? Have you looked around your neighborhood, your workplace, your community, and seen someone, a group of people, young, old, our own selves, who can benefit from our experience, our knowledge, our friendship, our air? Can we be so bold as to reach out to someone? Can you do that? If you've not done it before, can you find the safest person you can reach out to? Just reach out. Hi, hello, how are you? A stranger, not a family member, a fellow brother or sister. And just listen to someone else's story and allow them to have the benefit of a little bit of your experience. I'm not even going to use the word mentor on this because that has a much deeper purpose. I'm saying that we need to look out and see people in our community who need someone to bounce an idea on, someone to discuss something. And I think we, the 5.8G, can do a great job at that. So I want you to look out and start a conversation with someone else where we listen to what they want. So in that choice, I go to my second point. I want us to lead and have a different conversation. I want us to have a conversation that is open and honest. I want us to, as we listen to a young person, listen to what they want, listen to their dreams, listen to their dreams. You don't necessarily have to advise them on anything, you know. And sometimes the most interesting things, opportunities that they have for learning would be when you hear their dreams and then you give stories of your journey and you show them how you failed and how you had to try again. Because for many of them, they look at us and they're intimidated by us and they think things are so hard, I can never get there. And it's because we do such a good job of just being perfect or being near perfect and not really showing, hey, I remember when I had to do this, or giving them a sense of, yes, it is achievable. I have met too many people who've looked at me and said, I could never be like you. And until I began to talk about the journey and how I was 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, they begin to realize, but Miss B, you're not as bad. Yeah, I could do that. And hope is delivered. So change the conversation. Be open and honest. Talk about their dreams. Talk about your dream. Talk about your journey. Give inspiration. The next thing, we all have a lot of needs. We all have a lot of wants. Money has become the root of everything, but money is not everything. I want you all to begin bartering in your community. You have something that you don't need, and you see someone with something that they need, exchange, give it away. Exchange services, cook a meal for someone, share a joke with someone. Get into the practice of exchanging services. Don't be a money demon. Don't look at the cost of everything. And I think an easy way to get to that and to help us to start having a different conversation is if we start bartering. Start with a neighbor, one person. Our African traditions, the communities lived off bartering. So I want us to start doing that, to begin to open up and cause people to see us differently so we could all learn about each other differently. We, the 5.8G, may get a completely different perspective of the younger generation and they of us when we begin having a different conversation, bartering, exchanging. Let one of them give you a kind of fancy hat and go down the road with the hat. And you exchange with them a pair of socks or something like that. You would be amazed at what comes out and how that strengthens the individual, preparing them for the next stage in life. The fifth thing, let's serve each other. Unlike bartering, where you exchange, I need something for something else, find something that you can just do for another person. wet their plants, wash their car, cook a meal, go sit and have a conversation, talk to them, be of service. Someone is alone, someone is worried about something. There's a young student who's waiting for exams and because of online education doesn't know what is going to happen. There may be young people, and I'm talking about interstage. There may be young people who are thinking, what is going to happen? I think our emancipation story is about making sure we have continuity of our race. And we as the elders, yes, Jennifer, I am going to be 60 in December. I'm not 50, I'm going to be 60. I am an elder. We as elders, that's our responsibility. We have to make sure that when we pass on and we go with the ancestors and we join them and we become an ancestor, that there are people who we would have left a mark and they look up to the sky and they thank us when they remember and they make the right step because they've been pointed in the right direction by us and our influence stays with them. Last thing, and I know some of you all may say, you crazy in this day and age. How open is your home? How open is your home? Yes, we cannot leave the door open and whatever it is. One of the things that I find is so important to make sure that our legacy continues to move on and our future generations are strong as ourselves, because that is the measure for me of the success of an emancipation story. Is it getting stronger? Is it getting better? Each of our homes has something that is powerful that someone can learn from. Everyone has something that they're missing in their home or they wish it could be better. Sometimes some young people don't know what it's like to see a mother and a son or a mother and a daughter or a mother and a father sitting and just having a conversation together or be part of a conversation that is, how are you? What happened yesterday? What do you think about that? Some people don't know what it's like to sit at a table for a meal with a family. And I don't mean there's normally an everyday meal or something like that. It may be a birthday, it may be Christmas, it may be whatever it is. Some people need an escape to a place of quiet and peace so that they can think, so that they can just breathe. Our homes are our sanctuary, I understand. But there are people who I think can benefit from our opening our sanctuaries for a very short time. So 5.8G, we are the elders and we have gotten to this honored position because those who were before helped us here. We are not to continue the conversation that talks about how bad things are and how that's looking at life through a little hole. Let's step back and look at the broad picture and let's do our part to change the conversation. So just a quick brief summary. Find someone to guide, be open. Let them talk to you about their dreams. You talk to them about yours and your journey. Let them see that getting to where we are is not, it's difficult, but it's not impossible. And difficulties come, but they can be overcome. Lead a different conversation. Let's be honest, let's be open. Let's talk about dreams. Let's talk about how it can be done. Let's listen to what the others have to say and give them ideas and encouragement and hints about how it can go. I'm sure our talents will be appreciated. Let's get into some bartering. Not everything needs to be spent on money. You have extra stuff in your house and other people have it. It could be a garden. It could be wherever it is. It could be clothes. It could be whatever it is. Let's get into the habit of exchange. There is something about exchange as opposed to everything is hard cash and currency and being measured. that keeps people separate and apart. So let's start bartering with our community, with our groups. Let's serve each other. Serve each other. Find something that someone needs to be done. Go and wash somebody's hair. Let them sit down and give them a nice head massage. Go braid somebody's hair. Go do something for them. Give somebody a mani or a pedicure. Rub their hands, rub their back. Be of service to someone. And lastly, open that sanctuary. Invite others into your home. Not everybody, not every stranger will rob you. All right? Not everyone is a bandit. Use your judgment, open your home, and let's make sure that our proud and wonderful emancipation legacy from 1838 to 2021 continues. Great. So Jennifer, those are my tips.